Welcome to Silver Lining for Learning, episode 203. Today, we're exploring Realm, an innovative educational model and learning space that's redefining what school means. So Realm stands for Redesigning Education and Living Meaningfully. Realm's approach emphasizes customized experiential learning without traditional grades or labels. They trust in children's self-determination and curiosity, allowing families to create schedules that work best for them. This model has led amazing results, with students scoring above grade level on standardized tests and graduates successfully entering their chosen high schools or programs. So for 15 years, Realm has been serving diverse groups of learners from age 5 to 15, including homeschoolers and schoolers, traditional schoolers, kids who love school, and those with educational trauma. They've transformed an old vacuum repair shop into this magical learning space with over 2,800 kids coming through their doors. So Realm is currently serving over 110 families and has a growing waiting list. And from their website and my conversation with Jessica, I know they're expanding into a high school program, planning to scale their model into other cities. So today, we're honored to have with us the founders of Realm, Jessica Slayback and Victoria Forsman, along with Hayden Harrower, who is setting out to expand Realm into high school ages. So I first met Jessica at VelaCon. I was so inspired by her infectious enthusiasm and genuine passion for learning and education. I knew right then I need to invite her to our show and her team as well. And today we have our co-host Punya Mishra from Arizona University and Kurt Bonk from
Indiana.
Indiana. I don't know why it's escaping me at the moment.
For many people, they want to escape it too.
Indiana. And myself from University of Toronto. And welcome Jessica, Victoria, and Hayden. First, tell our listener a little bit about yourself and share your story of what has led you to Realm.
So, Lydia, you might want to tell the audience, the listening audience, what VeraCon is. You mentioned it in a couple shows ago, but people might not be aware of it. And what can anyone attend? Is it an exclusive club? Tell us a little bit about it before we go to everyone in the group here.
Sorry, Kurt, you froze for a moment. What?
The conference where you met them. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah. So I think this is the third time I've been talking about VelaCon. It's a conference that I think is the first time they've organized this conference for unconventional alternative forms of education. They bring in educators, educational entrepreneurs, and parents who are innovating bottom up in this space to create these new models of education to serve their unique communities. So if Jessica, you want to say more about what VelaCon is, yeah, please go ahead. And then I'm going to pass it on to you now. And then I'm going to ask Victoria, then Hayden.
Thank you so much, Lydia. It's such a pleasure to see you guys and to speak with you. Yeah, VelaCon is an incredible group of like-minded individuals who are really trying to make a change in education. And what I think they've realized and what we've realized is power in this movement comes in numbers. When Vic and I started this 14, 15 years ago, people were like, I'm sorry, you're doing what? So you're we would go and get our business license and we had to create the title Learning Center because nothing like this existed. And so now we are in this moment where the motion and the movement is so rich and alive, really realizing that our kids deserve and need, our future needs, better ways of educating our kids. The old school model is doing exactly what it was designed to do, but it was designed to do something 50, 60 years ago, which is not what the world needs now. The world needs a much richer, more dynamic way to educate our kids and get them thinking about what they want to see in the world, what purpose they have moving forward. And that really speaks to what led us to start this. I was teaching in public schools and charter schools all across the country, really everywhere from New York City to Newark, New Jersey, and then over to California. And when I became pregnant with my first little guy, Roscoe, who's going to be 14 soon, I really realized there was nowhere that I wanted him to go to school that I felt would really meet the need of this curious, amazing little being that was inside of me. And so Vicky and I, of course, like any mothers do, we decided we just needed to open a school then. That's what you do. So that's when Realm was born. And we started with one student in that year in 2010. And now we've grown to this, where I think at this point we've served, not I think, I actually know, we've served over 3,842 kids and growing. So that's a little bit behind my story. Vic, do you want to take it over?
Absolutely. So just to give you a little peek into my past, I grew up in the Midwest, very near Indiana, outside of Chicago. And I started in a big public school. And by the time I got to a junior in high school, my parents were just like, she likes school, but for all the wrong reasons, you know? And so I ended up going to boarding school in Wisconsin. And what I experienced there was a huge shift in quality of education. I experienced teachers and classrooms that were engaging and interesting, and I had a shift in what was expected from me, all of the personal accountability to my work. And that really changed the trajectory of my life, because I didn't know what I didn't know prior to that. And I didn't see myself as a student that was thriving and successful in a traditional system. But once you put me in a different environment, I all of a sudden became a really thirsty, curious learner. And that kind of led me down an alternative path of thinking about education. Fast forward, I ended up going to a women's college in Missouri who had a laboratory school on campus, which was operating in a multi-age format. And that was a very eye-opening moment, because I was witnessing students of different ages in the same classroom, where some students were really active leaders and other students who were younger were really able to not just learn from the teacher, but see continuously showcased a higher level of learning every single day, all the time. And I just kept seeing like chips and ways that the traditional mold could be broken and operate successfully. Then I moved to California, and at the ripe age of 22 was asked to develop a creative alternative school. And that was an incredible process where Jesse and I met, and it was all about designing education that was meaningful, connected to life outside of the classroom, rich in arts and adventure and experience. And then Jesse and I got to a point after many years of that, of realizing that we had almost reached our philosophical goal, but not quite. So we wanted to do something that was a little bit different again by creating what was at the time an enrichment center, also kind of known as a micro school by others in today's world, where students could have a buffet of options and small classrooms and choice in their education. And sometimes people look at us like a mini college or community college with the amount of diversity of classes kids have to pick from, and just give this, create this as a time in their lives where they can try on, dive deep, and experience as many things as possible, so that when they leave or they move to the next phase of their education, they have much more sense of what their curiosities, interests, passions, and gifts are moving forward. So I think that's pretty much how I got here. Hayden, on goes to you, my friend.
That was so eloquent. That's hard to follow. My path was very kind of a winding road to get here, and I feel very, very lucky. Some of it was skill, but a lot of it was luck, and a lot of it had to do with them and what they built. I went to a very classic, conventional public school as a kid in a small town in Nevada of about 1,000 people, class size about 30. Which I think allowed me to have what was a great public school experience. But from the get-go, I always felt limited. I always felt quicker than what things were going, and developed over the years into a class clown because I was not stimulated enough. And by the time I got into high school, I was still making good grades, but I found it far more important to be the funniest friend and to goof around as much as possible while still getting as grades enough that would get me to the next step. In the back of my mind, though, I knew I was learning bad habits, and I knew I was learning something that wasn't going to sustain me, but I was a teenager who didn't have the self-discipline to change that. And I graduated with like a 3.4. I got into a couple schools that I applied to, decided to go to school far away from home in Connecticut. And pretty quickly, my theory about my work style played out. And about a year in, I was on academic probation, about to lose scholarships across the country from family, not a lot of support. So I had to change. And luckily, I was working at the library at the time and just had a lot of books in front of me, even though I was a very ADHD kind of kid and it was hard to slow down. I was scared enough that I started picking up books on what I thought was the problem, which was motivation and habits and things like that. And although it was the problem, it was such an easy fix that I started to become angry and frustrated that these things weren't taught to me at a high school age about really how to manage yourself, how to take care of your own emotions, especially as a male in this world. I didn't really feel like I had any communication around those subjects. And so I started to dream up in my dorm room a different way of doing high school. And the more I thought about it, the more I felt like that was a zone that was ripe for the taking. And really, ever since, it's become more and more apparent that that is a pretty broken institution in our country in relevance to all the people who are leaving those systems for alternatives like Realm, and also for those who are skating around it and going to community college early, right? We're sort of admitting as a society that this is sort of a kind of a step that feels somewhat unnecessary or purposeless, or there's something missing. And so a person who, though, was studying communication and who ended up studying instructional communication in grad school and started to teach college classes, I quickly realized, like, this is really where I need to be. And so I kept working at it and took a job in LA working actually in mental health and substance use, but being an educator in that space. And what was really just a job that was a solid job to get me from one city to another. I was in San Diego and moved to LA. I really quickly realized this was a very cool space for me to be in because it was free from the constraints of school districts. It was free from the constraints of these different things. I got to experiment and really get to see where these things would go. Unfortunately, I was in a really great program for college kids, and it folded due to some financial investors pulling out. But I got recommended to another program that was just a little baby startup, and it was for high school kids. And I was really excited. I got the director position. I got to really build this program from scratch. And we started with about 2 kids and 1 house and residential treatment. And we grew that program to about 70 kids in 8 different facilities over a period of 5 years. So not only did I got to see something that worked for very different kinds of kids and the kids that fell off the conveyor belt, as it were, I also got to see how a model can be small but scalable in what to do and sometimes what not to do in some of those attempts. So after about 5 years there, I was getting burnt out from the intensity of the mental health industry. And I was really looking to make that next step, the dream that I always had, which was to really be in education proper and to start to develop something new. And luckily, I never look on LinkedIn for a job.
We never post on LinkedIn for jobs.
And the very first post on LinkedIn was this little company called Redesign Education Living Meaningfully, which, if you know me, was like to a T, especially the living meaningfully part. Like, I was just obsessed. And I bought a LinkedIn subscription so I could send a cover letter over to them cold. And that began the conversations. And then I got to meet these 2 lovely people, and how can you not fall in love with them and what they're doing? And then you come to this space and it's this megorium of emporium, like wonderfulness and color and chaos. And I'll end my story with this. So we met a series of times over about a period of a year before I finally came in. And actually, originally, I wasn't even supposed to build the high school program. I was supposed to expand their model until I was like, hey, I think you could do this for high school. You guys don't have to be scared of it. And I was leaving one day after doing a teaching demo, and all but basically formalized the position for me. And I'm walking out, and there's this wonderful kid, and her name is Ellie. And Ellie is one of a kind. And so I walked out, and she had no qualms with approaching a person she had never seen before. And mind you, I was wearing sneakers and jeans, a button-up shirt, untucked, and happened to wear like a wool coat because it was like March or something. It was right, sport coat, right? So I'm walking out, and Ellie goes, "Who are you?" Like that. And I go, "Oh, my name's Hayden." And she goes, "Are you going to teach her?" And I was like, yeah, I think so. Like, do you think I can make it? And she sizes me up and down. And you have to know about Ellie is she's a fashionista. Like, she wants to do that. She wants to design dresses and all that.
And she's like 6.
She's like 6. And she looks me up and down real quick, as if I'm in like the Devil Wears Prada film, and says, you're dressed for work. This is a school. And in that moment, I knew I was in the right spot. I knew I was in the right place, because if this place could create a person like that to be so confident in themselves and to just be so unabashedly who they were, I knew this was the right space. And so ever since then, it's been a dream. It's been a wild ride, but we're doing some really cool things.
This is so, I mean, just the joy that I hear in your guys' voices is infectious. You can see all of us like smiling away. So that what we started this webinar back in 2020 when the pandemic had started, and with an idea of showcasing things exactly like what you're doing, which is sort of the innovative approaches to learning and sort of the joy of it and so on. So thank you so much. Just the first 10 minutes made me quite happy just listening to all of you. But for our listeners who may not know about Realm and like how it operates, like what does it actually look like? I mean, is it a physical location? Is it a conceptual location? Does it happen online, face to face? Where, how many, how does it work? So give us a sense of that, of the geography and this sort of organizational structure of it. And then I think there are other questions that people will of course dig into. But like personally, I didn't know much about it till I went to a website and started looking, and I'm sure our listeners would benefit from that, because now they understand how it came to be and sort of the energy and the passion that you guys are bringing to it. The question that is like, what did it lead? What did it become? Would be lovely to get a little bit of context setting on that.
It's a great question, Punya. And yeah, so we do have a physical location. During COVID, we moved everything completely online, I think like everybody did, and managed to engage a lot of our community that way. But now, yeah, we're in an old vacuum repair shop, which with a lot of love and a lot of paint and a lot of Lego, we've turned into an amazing learning center. So it really operates a lot like, it feels like a home, and it's a mixture of a home and a community college. So kids can come here anywhere from 1 hour a week to the whole full gamut, 40, 50 hours a week, however long they want to be here. And Vicky, I'm going to pass it to her because she really masterminds this whole schedule that we put together, which has about 120 different classes each semester that kids can choose from. All of those classes are created by our teachers. So that's one thing I really want to mention. Not only do the students have choice here, but the teachers do. So all of our teachers who started with us 14 years ago are still here today. And I can't say that it's because of the great teacher pay. It's a lot of love and a lot of being able to really live what they're passionate about. So like, I'm a literacy teacher, but I also love Lego. So I teach a Lego master's class, and our art teacher also teaches forensic science because she really wanted to be a doctor when she was younger. Our math teacher, Joe, who knows everything in the world, also teaches Jeopardy type classes, and all of these really interesting, unique passions. And they design new courses all the time. So we're constantly looking inward to ourselves and what we're curious about, and then that passion just oozes out into the kids. Vic, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about what it looks like.
So we have students. We've had students for the last decade or more who were kindergarten through 8th grade. And yes, some pre-Kers squeak in there here and there. And we also have high school kids who would come and want to take classes with us as well, because some of the times, because it's individualized education, what we're trying to accomplish is taking the floor and ceiling off of things. One thing that we've learned over the years is that a lot of kids who are coming to us that have been stifled in a traditional education, when taking a closer look at who they are, their skills and their abilities, what we need to do is be able to understand how are they operating in the different places in their life, and then how can we meet them there in their courses. So we've had so many students come through our doors who needed to be in calculus, but they needed to, read and, play sports and do things socially, emotionally with their peer group. So we have a team of teachers who all have the wildest, most diverse skills and talents and passions. You can be a teacher that's good at math, and you could be a teacher who's also really curious about how to survive a zombie apocalypse. Or, you know, like we can be playful in the way that we operate or offer classes to kids, and try to make them fun, engaging, and interesting, and hit our core subjects and do classes that marry them all together. And so what we do is we just basically we've created a program that's individualized education. Each semester we sit with each family and child and try to customize the right learning plan for them. And often, if they're leaning into us for the lion's share of their education, it's really looking at them in the different spaces of their life. Like, who are you as a mathematician? What kind of books are you interested in reading? What kind of skills can we give you as a writer that will enhance your abilities? And what are your interests? What do you want to dive into? Some of the kids are into tech, some are into nature and sports, and we have hikers clubs and coaches that come in here. Some are incredibly creative and want to do lots of arts and painting and theater. How can we allow for kids to dive into all their interests and try on things that they don't know if they're interested in or not? So we have families who come to us who are either homeschooling or who belong to, in California, we have a lot of what are called non-brick and mortar charter schools. Those are schools that are homeschool hybrid schools. And for families who operate that way, they'll outsource classes, or the parents can get support from the charters designing and customizing their child's curriculum. So we work with kids in those areas. And then we also work with students who are in traditional education and help accessorize whatever they're doing educationally, or help them deep dive into their interests as well. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing all the time. We are constantly reinventing ourselves. We are learning who the community of kids we serve are. And because the way that we are invested in kids is long-term, it's not to have 25 kids and then the next year 25 new kids. It's really to get to know them and help them take steps forward in all the ways that they're a learner at the same time. And the one thing that I forgot to mention that I also really value and think is incredibly important is in social and emotional development too. And so we do a lot of classes and a lot of thinking and a lot of ways to train our staff and work with our community on building up skills that will enhance their ability to communicate, solve problems, and live harmoniously with a whole bunch of different philosophical beliefs in life.
That's actually something too I wanted to mention, if you guys are okay with me jumping in, that I think is really different and special. And Lydia spoke about this at VelaCon too, about Realm. You know, Vic and I love humans, and we really love loving on them and figuring out who each of these unique kids are. And Vicky always talks about it like peeling away the onion layers, like really getting to the core of someone. And for a long time when we started Realm, it was this instinctive way of being with people and teaching through love. But it wasn't really until in 2018 actually that my parents both passed away. And when that happened, I was really trying to search for like, why did this happen? They actually both chose to kill themselves. And I was struggling with why, what is this world that we live in where something like that can happen? And as I was kind of going through the grieving process and trying to understand what's happened to my family, I fell upon this organization called Peace Literacy. Paul Chappelle runs this program. And what he talks about is how humans, of course, have these physical needs, right? We always talk about food, safety, shelter as being the paramount needs of kids. And I think schools took that to heart and they provided these essential physical needs. But what everybody's missing is this huge set of non-physical needs that are essential for human beings to not just survive, but thrive. And it really started to codify and put into words for me what at the Realm we do that is so unique and special. We are meeting these non-physical needs of children. We're giving them choice. We're helping them discover purpose and meaning in their life. We're giving them a sense of belonging. Everyone belongs at the realm. You don't apply to come here and get accepted or not accepted. You come here and you come here. You can't pay to come here. We'll figure it out. Let's do it. Let's find a way to make it happen. Everyone belongs. And like Vic was saying, no matter where you are in your educational theories, you belong here if you want to belong here. Nurtured and loved, right? We nurture and love the heck out of these kids. A need for imagination. Like kids and humans, we have to like be able to not just create the future, but we need to be able to visualize and imagine what the future can be, and then enjoy that process. Transcendence, taking time to look inward and think about self and do reflection. So when those two things came together in 2018, it was really a huge aha moment for me about what we really are doing at the realm. It's about really hitting all of those non-physical needs so that these little humans can survive this tumultuous world, you know? And that really made, just for me, it made the whole rest of what we're doing like, I get it. I get why it works. I get why this model needs to be everywhere. And it lit me on fire. This model needs to be everywhere. People need this. Everybody needs this. So,
and then we met Hayden.
yes, this guy.
For a year to join us, because we felt like not only is he wonderful and like inspired and intelligent, but also has this incredible gift for understanding and working with kids in the mental health industry and how to be able to support them through, you know, the human experience that so many kids go through, as well as giving them all kinds of, I know it's a very popular coined phrase, executive function skills in today's world, but really helping them put in place some of those skills of self-organization really beautifully. So having that on top of what we're trying to do felt like the cherry on top.
Sure. Well, thank you. And Jessica, I'm so sorry to hear of your parents. But also amazing resilience on your part to flip that around to make what you do, and your passion and commitment to that is just visible and strong. I just want to make a quick comment about something that struck me when you guys were speaking, because you spoke very eloquently about the need to connect with every child through their, because it always amazes me that, that there are 7 billion people on this planet, and each and every one of us has this absolutely unique story. Like, how bizarre is that, right? It's like, whoa, it just blows my brain sometimes thinking of it. But, and what you guys have done is sort of embrace that and sort of try to figure out ways of growing. The other piece that really struck me, which I don't think you highlighted, but I think it's part of your philosophy, is when you talked about the teachers, that you are also seeing them as being these unique individuals who can bring that unique perspective to it. And I'm reminded of a dissertation by one of actually that was an advisor on, and Kurt knows her very well, Dana Hendrickson. She's a professor here at ASU, and she looked at award-winning teachers, and the title of her dissertation, the reason I bring it up, which will resonate with you, is "We Teach Who We Are." And what she found is that the best teachers find a way of bringing themselves into that space in a very unique kind of way. You might want to look at that if you have a moment sometime. And I think she has a couple of pieces published about it as well. But nothing that I think will surprise you in what she writes about these amazing educators. But I just wanted to make that point that it's not just the children, but it's also the educators in that space where the same sort of philosophy or ideology is being seen. I just wanted to underscore that a little bit. And maybe
thank you for saying that. Yeah, thank you for saying that, because we really believe you can't redesign education if you don't redesign the teacher position.
Yep.
Right. We're seeing the drain of talent, and why shouldn't they leave? Right. They're not getting valued, paid, given enough autonomy, given enough creative control. And it's astounding that the average, teacher, what do you call it, switching in and out, for lack of better words, like here, we're breaking those records, right? We have people who are here for a long time. So yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because that is exactly what we're trying to do on the back end that parents don't see. But it's a big reason as to why it is what it is. Joe, our math teacher, has taught siblings you know, and now there's nieces and nephews that are coming in, and he has a brand as a teacher because he's done it for so long, you know, and that's a big part of who we are. You know, when Joe thinks he's going to retire someday, when he does, it'll fundamentally change us a bit in some ways because it's made about the people. So thank you for saying that, because we really should
no, I think
doing that way.
that is that's a powerful thing, particularly when we look at teacher shortages and all of those things, which is
Absolutely.
has really to do with an erasure of their identity and erasure of their self.
Right.
And you know, and what's amazing to me is like some of these things are so obvious, but we still don't do them or implement them. And there are all kinds of other issues. But I am hogging the limelight. Lydia has questions. I will let her jump in, and I will sit back and listen to you guys.
After you, Lydia, can I mention something about that conversation?
Yes, absolutely. Why don't you just share that now, and I can jump in afterwards.
So I just don't want to lose it, and I often will forget things if I hold on to it too long. So thank you. So one of the great things that I feel like I've learned too, which is really so important to understand for kids, is because we have so many different teachers, it's natural, no matter how much you train a teacher, you can't train them to be like everybody else.
Right.
Everybody teaches in their own dominant styles. And when students come into the realm, what I often say is try on as many teachers as you possibly can. And inevitably, after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, parents, you're going to start hearing the conversation, oh, I really love this teacher. I really don't like this teacher as much, but I love these teachers. And I was like, that's really good news. That's great information, because what we can take from that is we understand how each of these teachers teach. We can understand that for those who really need the logical, organized part of their brain, you know, activated, they're going to thrive and survive well with certain types of teachers and in certain types of learning environments. But for students who are more outside the box thinkers or have a stronger need for connection or creativity, they're going to thrive and survive and find themselves as excellent students in the presence of teachers who teach in a way that allows for that. What I've noticed about kids who come in feeling stifled about a traditional school experience is not that they were not capable of learning. A lot of times, what I learn is that they were aligned with teaching done in a way that didn't meet their natural learning style. And therefore, they were kind of defining themselves as not capable learners.
Right.
And so it's really like something to be celebrated when kids start to make those discoveries. Like, I know I do well with certain teachers and I don't do as well with other teachers. And our hope in them learning that in this process is that they take that with them so that when they're choosing a next place to go, they're looking in areas that are operating more in their dominant learning styles. And they know that if they're paired with a teacher that doesn't teach them in a way that they understand things, it's not about them being a bad student.
Right.
It's about a mismatch in styles. And I feel like that's been an incredibly important part of our learning process. I hope that was clear.
That's really short.
Thanks, Lydia.
My next question is about your plan to help others to do a similar model to what you're doing. You know, your model is so community-centered, people-centered, and all these nurturing, love, sense of belonging you mentioned are so human, like related traits. And how you plan to really scale this model to other locations, and what are your current thoughts and plan around that? And how can other people join you if they say, oh, wow, this is what I want to do? How can I do this with you?
Lydia, I'm so glad you mentioned that. So one, the first thing I'll say is if you want to do anything like this, if you go to our website, there's literally a spot where you can request to chat with me and have a conversation about what the realm could look like. After the last podcast we did, I had about 18 requests placed from, you know, Alaska, Kentucky, New Jersey, New York, all really intrigued and interested in what we're doing. Because again, as we saw at VelaCon, this movement is real right now. It's on fire. People are really wanting to change things. So with Realm, we're not interested in franchising the model. It's not like you can just take exactly what we're doing here and put it somewhere else. Because it's like you said, it's a community-centered model, and each community is going to have its own needs, its own ways in which they're wanting to deliver education, their own philosophies, their own people. But what we will definitely help and encourage is we've got 14 years now of figuring out how to do this semester after semester, whether it's the scheduling process, the registration systems we use, how we work with kids on a daily basis, what kind of leadership you need. I mean, it's funny because this guy has been a huge impetus to us actually understanding the systems behind what we're doing. Before, if you asked me like, what's my role at Realm, I would be like, I do a lot of stuff, but we're really learning now what it takes to run a Realm and what that can look like. So what we can offer to people and what we want to offer to people is those years of experience. And I also just want to be a cheerleader. I want to keep bringing these people together. We're part of the ASU Fellows actually as well, which is a group of 80 some people who are working towards changing schools. And it's just those powers and numbers, it's bringing people together. So again, I think that's the most important thing, is getting the word out that it can be done. Individualized education is completely doable and possible. And it's a beautiful thing to bring to your community.
And just to add on to that, right now we're kind of in the process of these new people are coming to us and we're having these initial conversations and starting to get to know them and starting to get to know their communities and helping them start to look around their communities to see what kind of environment they're in so they can kind of figure out how the next steps are there. We're kind of walking and chewing gum though, because while we're trying to help other people start, we're also trying to finish the model for ourselves, right? And trying to finish this high school program that's going to have a lot of new elements to it. So I think it's just kind of trying to do both at the same time. But there is nothing more Realm than just starting because you really feel like it and you just kind of have to figure it out too. But luckily there's people who've really laid a lot of groundwork out and there's a lot to learn from.
Yeah.
And there's so many super inspiring visionaries, teachers out there. I feel like that's what the world needs. We just need to be like, here's a hub, here's a place that you can come and observe, connect, learn from us, and then take the vision outward. And that's who I think we're starting to meet.
Yep.
Thank you. Now you brought up the teachers, and I think this is such an amazing center that like teachers, I feel, just naturally gravitate towards you and they want to do good work. They're passionate about what they're teaching. And I think I saw it on the video that the teacher actually have to pitch their course, their students. They have to make it engaging, fun, and like appealing enough so student will take it. So can you tell us more about like the teachers and then how you personalize this for the teachers and how does that work?
I don't know, Vic, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we started with a small core staff. And what you learn right away is that with our core staff, each person is their own perfectly unique individual. Like Jessie, who's a bit like Mary Poppins with her types of skills. She is the most inspiring. Part of why we're partners today is because I observed her as a teacher and I saw how extraordinary she is in just inspiring kids. And she's like watching a show, even better. Jessie is barefoot during every class. She's breaking so many of the rules of the ways that teachers are supposed to be. And just on the ground, finger painting, whatever it is to be in, like, it's alive learning with kids. But she's also incredibly talented as a musical theater person. She is a piano player. She is, you probably could sling most classes at her and she would be able to, get a gold medal in teaching them. But again, she's just a layered person who can do all these things. She leans into her Legos because that's such a personal passion of hers. Often when we're meeting teachers, Jessie and I are sitting on the sidelines taking notes because somehow we'll just stumble into conversations. Like a lot of teachers are thinking when they meet us, they want to talk to us about the core material that they're competent in teaching. And what Jessie and I are taking notes on are like, oh, they're a gardener. They garden at home.
They just ping pong. Ooh.
Their house. Oh, they played ping pong. Yeah. And then we were like, would you be willing to explore and expand upon some of those other interests with kids and start to write curriculum in those areas? And then once you kind of unleash the teacher and you just allow them, we know that we need to be able to offer core classes for kids. But when you can look at all the different people and allow them to express all their different passions, we have so many things to offer. And then in addition to our core staff, one thing that we really stand firmly on is first of all, we're in Los Angeles, which has so many interesting things going on around us. We have so many people that are tapping into and specializing in education. We have tech companies that are doing classes for kids around us. We have language companies. We have coaches. We have sports companies. We have rock climbing walls. We have fencing arenas. We have all these things. So what we've made a commitment to do is not be in competition with anybody, but to be in partnership with everybody, even other schools. And that way we can say, hey, can we put you on our fall schedule so that if a child signs up for fencing in the middle of the day, we drive them over to your fencing class and then back afterwards, and then they go to math class. Or, or we have great contractors who come in and teach at the Realm to our students. They bring their tech, they bring their, sports, they bring their languages, they bring their theater, anything we can find. And more teachers that are doing these really interesting and amazing specialized learning classes are popping up all the time, whether it's cooking or whether it's, I don't know, Jess, can you help me think of other ones that have come in here? I feel like we have a list of about 50.
Great nights. Yeah, there's so many things.
Puppet making class.
Yeah,
we had a puppet journalism class, by the way. Puppet journalism.
Climate scientists.
Yeah. So it's actually, Lydia, it's not hard because you just ask these people what they want to do and they'll give you too many ideas. Once you get used to being here and you realize it's just a sandbox to play in and there's almost no wrong answer, then it's just kind of a train.
And you know what? When people are passionate about what they're teaching and they're happy, they're gonna find ways, like it naturally creates this connection with the students. And our class sizes are very small. There's like 8 kids in a class on average.
Should be small as 3.
Yeah, so they're very small classes. And so teachers can really just dive in. And what the one transition I had to go through, because I kind of I'm the person here who does a lot of the teacher support. So when I'm doing observations, I'm not checking boxes like, oh, yep, they had to do now. Oh, yep, they told all the kids to be quiet. They had a hand signal. Like, that's not my role. My job is to look at the kids and notice, are they engaged? Are they happy? Do they feel safe? Do they feel loved? Are they on fire? And then I look at the teacher and say, oh, they did this really cool way of getting them to do this. Oh, they really shared information in this way. So I'm more reflecting just what the student experience is rather than trying to make all teachers teach in the same way, because that's just silly. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Every chef cooks in their own way with their own ingredients and makes their own amazing food. Teachers deserve that respect. They honed down in these skills for a long time. So, and taking the table, I'm getting so excited.
Teachers too, who we've thought would be the best, and they've come in and they've been aligned with us philosophically, but in practice just didn't have that true readiness to teach in our style. And what ends up happening is when I'm offering classes for families, kids don't sign up for those classes. So there's this real natural process of teachers either finding themselves or finding that this is not the right environment for them. And it's very student-led in that process.
To that end, our most successful teachers are not from the most conventional places.
No.
They're real people who just love kids and love learning, and then they bring whatever they have to that. And I think that's the most essential ingredient. It's not what content it's can you bring that excitement to kids and really love it, the messy process of loving it. And if you can do that, I mean, the recruiting that we've had over the years from where we get people, I am the outlier in that I applied through LinkedIn.
That usually doesn't happen.
It's usually we're in a restaurant, you're like, you're really fun. Do you teach at all? And I've learned from you guys, because I was having a conversation with my car mechanic, who I'm going to try to bring in if he wants to do some trade stuff.
Which would be amazing.
Which would be, I know, and he's great. I'm trying to bring him in, so he's a good guy. anyways, so yeah, so that's why it's easy because there's so many ideas because they're just people who want to share ideas.
We like to lean into the fact that our teachers do not have teaching degrees. They do not, they're not credentialed teachers. And that's just fine.
But Jesse, can you and Hayden tell them about your adventures last year?
Oh, yes. If you want to hear about this, we also do really crazy things. So every year we run a class called excursions. That
I'm
Hayden
laughing right now because I'm trying to remember what the question was. This is our podcast now, Lydia. I'm talking.
But this is kind of a really cool thing we do. Each year, the kids get to go. They apply to go on an excursion, and once they join this class, their whole responsibility is to plan, book, fundraise, do everything for this trip. So last year, Hayden and I went with 8 middle schoolers to Japan. The year before that, I was in a van with 12 middle school boys driving around Iceland. The year before that, we were in New Zealand going whitewater rafting. The year before, so we take learning to the extreme.
Yeah, so this year we're going to Italy.
And now you're going to Italy.
I'm taking the kids. That's why we're in the car wash today. It's the first fundraiser for the new year. So that's where we're at. So.
But it's such an empowering experience. I started that because when I was in Newark, when I was teaching at a charter school in Newark, New Jersey, I realized that the only way to really help these kids be passionate about life again was to get them out of their immediate community, get them out of this circumstance that they're in and show them or help them experience, not even show, but help them experience other parts of the world. And so my principal at the time, which is hysterical because I was like 22. I mean, I was not much older than these kids I was taking. He let me take 12 kids to New Zealand to stay on a marae. And it changed their lives. I mean, I still hear from them, and Dewan just texted me a couple days ago. About
I hate to interrupt, but Kurt, I think you might have a question.
Sorry, Kurt.
No, this is perfect because
good.
I had the extreme learning team. So I studied extreme learning about 14 years ago. The problem was my students who were doing their pre-dissertation research studies within it were all flunking their quals because none of the faculty I worked with believed in extreme learning, didn't know it had, they were looking for a theoretical basis. They wanted some established, traditional, conventional instructional design models and all this. And so we had to change the name. We're studying informal learning. We called ourselves the sole self-directed online learning environments groups. Anyways, by the way, I have a free book on online motivation called Tech Varieties. It has 10 principles of motivation. I'll send to you. It's online, but I have a newer version. It's going to relate to my question. So I'll come back to that. First, I have some comments. Number one, Sheila Jaganathan from the World Bank reached out this week and she said, this sounds like a marvelous show. This is, she was really excited just to hear about this show. She's in Washington, D.C. Just a little side note in there. Hayden, I think it was you who said, back to the realm. And I thought to myself, they should have t-shirts, back to the realm, but they are wearing t-shirts here, the Realm Creative Academy and Realm.
This is an old one.
You already got the t-shirts taken care of. So a couple other comments before my question. When Hayden said he's from this remote part of Nevada, a little 1,000 people in the area, I want to know if it's Area 51 or is where they hold the Burning Man event every, no.
I'll neither confirm or deny
that. Jesse said what the world needs now. And I'm just thinking Coca-Cola's going in my head. The world needs now is love, love, love. And the Coca-Cola commercial. But really, we'll have Cunha design some new advertising. What the world needs now is realm. And what the world. So just saying, it sounds like the world needs
more t-shirt ideas there.
Yep. Okay.
back to the realm. Vicky. Yeah. She's from some outpost of Chicago.
Yep.
I am too.
Yeah.
I'm from Milwaukee. And
I went to Beaver Dam.
Oh, no kidding. I know that very well. Yeah. Been there many times. So actually I grew up at just west side of Milwaukee called West Dallas. It's where the high school where Kamala held her first event is 2 blocks from where I grew up, where I went to homecoming. So it's West Dallas Central where she was. Anyways, my question has to do with your bios, okay? So I'm going to take us back to your respective bios, and each one of you have interesting things that you're discussing. And we've had 203 shows, right? So far. Probably in 50 of them, I've asked people what their principles of learning are. Just because I used to be an educational psychologist, I'm interested in principles of learning. So I'm not going to ask you that specifically, but I'm going to get back to that. I also teach a course on learning environment design, and Vicki said learning environments are important about 3 times, maybe 5 times in what you've brought up. So I'm going to have a 2-part question for you. You can answer either one of the parts. But first, let me point out, Jessica mentioned in terms of principles of learning, a need for purpose-driven human beings. It's in her bio. Passion-driven learning, empathetic learning, joyful learning, and so forth. And if I move here to the next page, you know, we get into creative freedom and problem solving and meaningfulness. And that's from Vicki, diverse, rich, individualized, supportive learning environments, accessible learning environments, passionate learning environments. And we get to Hayden, and he talks about interest-driven learning and choice-driven learning and meaning-centered learning and engaging learning and flexible learning, confidence-driven learning. So there's more in there. So either could you kind of summarize what your principles are for an effective learning environment now, after we've been chatting for almost an hour, or pull out one of those principles and describe a student that you've had that exemplifies, that kind of inspired you or made you cry or made you excited or proud. Could you think of a story related to one of those principles that might exemplify it for others? Because we'll have people who watch this show, who listen to the show, who are graduate students in classes, who might write a paper on the show reflecting on it. And the stories are always much more captivating, and, you know, it helps people take it home, take the next. So either kind of the big picture or the little, you know, vignette or story. And you're all thinking, I know, so I'll keep blabbering on. I think Vicki's probably got an idea already. So we'll start with Vicki.
100. I don't know where to begin.
I know.
Probably. I don't have as many.
I wish, because really, I wish somebody would do a study on all the kids that come here, because it's not like we draw from one specific, like we don't succeed with one kind of person. Like we get kids who are unschooler in parent philosophy to homeschooler to parents who come in and they're like, I have no idea what you're doing. I don't know why I was referred to you. All I know is that my child's spirit is broken, and can you help me? And so it's like we go on these different journeys with different kids and truly hyper invest in learning about each one and taking them on their journey. So maybe for the, you know, the point of like maybe tugging at heartstrings, I'll speak to kids who have been in more trauma, who have joined our community, of which there are many, many kids who were, you know, I just met with a mom last week who I haven't started working with her son yet, but spent the entire year last year in breakdown for over an hour in the parking lot before going to his private, small, independent school, and was almost wetting his pants in class during the day because his anxiety level was so elevated because he felt confined and shamed and unable to even ask, could he go to the bathroom because of whatever that learning environment was. And that was at a school that is very well known, and a lot of families go there and have success there. So, I mean, we've had kids who have been bullied. We've had kids who have had teachers that are mismatches. We have so many kids who are asked to sit in a chair for 6 hours a day. And once they come and we customize their schedule where they can get up and go and have physical activity throughout the day and lots of movement, have fallen right on the tracks for themselves, finding themselves as learner and building up their own confidence. So I feel like we just graduated out last year, 22 kids who were all on these different tracks, who came to us because one student was so deeply shy but intelligent, that he wasn't showcasing any of his skills in class. And when he left after about 8 years of being with us, I would put him in charge of the realm at this point. I mean, he was such a good spokesman, such a great leader, had so much practice. I have other students who are just kids who are just making tragic behavioral choices all over the place. And we love those kids and we want to make those teachable moments. One thing that we really, I know I'm not really answering your question. I'll say this one piece and then I'll see if I can redirect myself. But one thing else that I think
I got one. Don't worry.
Hayden will be much more precise. But I think one thing that we really believe with kids too is that behavior is another thing that is being handled poorly in a lot of other places. Like for me, I see behavior that kids express, whether it's a kid or an adult, it's them showcasing the best tool that they have to manage a situation. And so if you can see it that way, it's a teachable moment for that student. So we do a lot of teachable moments at the Realm. There are a lot of choices that are made. So, helping kids mature in that way, understand what works, what doesn't work, what serves the greater good, what serves them as a learner is part of their journey too. And, after reinforcing that lovingly and in a way that's not judging or shaming them over years, they move out into the world as very amazing, extraordinary humans. Hayden, I'm passing it to you because I'm rambling and I'm sorry about
just
that.
mention that we just have a few minutes left, and Vicky's offered for graduate students out there a dissertation topic. So she's any grad students looking for a dissertation topic, here it is. We'll connect you. Hayden.
Yeah, and I think just to put that in a more concrete package, this actually happened before I got to Realm, but I didn't think about it until now. It actually connects very beautifully because this student came to the mental health treatment center I was working at, and it was residential treatments. It was very, let's say, acute level issues, severe depression and anxiety. And this kid came in, he was from San Diego. He was actually homeschooled all the way up through up until high school. And he went to a straight up public high school right after that and just really struggled with the transition. And he was just a kid. He was a good looking kid. He was really nice. He was very respectful, which was very rare for a teenage mental health institution. We didn't get a lot of that. So he became one of our favorites very quickly. But he was a kid who was so self-critical. He just saw a totally different version of himself than everybody else saw and thought he was the worst and all this kind of stuff. And I asked him one of the first days, which was standard protocol for me. I said, what do you want to do? I didn't ask about his homework. I didn't ask about high school. The very first question was, what do you want to do? And he meekly, very quietly said, I want to play music. And I said, great. What do you want to play? He says, I want to play guitar. I said, have you ever played guitar before? He goes, no. I was like, well, you're in luck. I've played guitar for about 20 years and I can show you a thing or two. He goes, you do that? I said, yeah. As long as you can approach some of your math homework every day, I'll teach you math afterwards, or I'll teach you guitar afterwards. So we started. And pretty quickly, he would have little tiny goals for his homework he was deathly afraid of, and he would get through it. And then he would start playing guitar. Within 50 days, he learned about 40 songs on the guitar, played for us at the end. He called me a year after. He went back to school. He transitioned fine out of our program. And by the time he called me, he was entering his junior year. And he had said that he quit the lacrosse team. He joined a band. And he was making good enough grades because he knew how to set up his goals and how to get through the stuff he didn't like to do. And he was applying to music school. And I haven't heard from him since, but I believe he's there now. And I get goosebumps every time thinking about it. But it crystallizes for me what I really believe. And I think what Vicky is actually getting at in a way, which is that for us, I think it starts with like, what do they really care about? What's meaningful to them?
Yep.
And especially for teenagers, I really do feel like you have to treat them like an adult. They're very bad at being an adult, but they think they're an adult. And I'll finish real quickly. And that is what's in it for me, right? They have to know what's in it for me before they'll do any other stuff they don't really realize. So for me, it starts with what are you really, really interested in? What do you find very meaningful? And you build off of that. And that's where confidence can come from. That's where resilience can come from, is really that the core of the meaning. So that's my quick answer. Hopefully we got under time.
And Jessica, we just have a minute or two left.
Oh, I can do it in a minute. I just truly believe there are no bad humans out there, right? And like there are things that happen at the Realm every single day where someone is hurt by something that someone said, or someone makes a choice that really doesn't work for somebody else. The difference at the Realm is that we manage that, but we manage it in a way where it's rupture and repair. You know, kids have an opportunity to make mistakes, to be messy humans. We are all perfectly imperfect. We understand that and we live by that. We really live out that philosophy. We don't give up on kids. There's nothing a kid or a human could do here that we can't repair together. And I just that's what the world needs more of, right? We all just need to figure out how to be together in a way that works. So I get to live the best life, the best life ever. And I just appreciate you guys a lot. You too.
You ended with what the world needs, and it is realm. Lydia or Punya, want to make a comment before I introduce the next session?
No, just briefly, thank you so much for joining us. The passion and the energy is so apparent and clear. I just have to share this little anecdote. I always joke that if I had gone to school in the US, like public school in the US, I would have been put on medication. I'm hyper fidgety. While we were doing the show, I uploaded the website, I fixed the Rubik's, and that's who I am. And I got called out for it day before yesterday, and it felt so insulting because I was doodling something and in a formal meeting, and somebody made a comment, and it still stings, and I'm thinking that, and I'm a grown up, I don't have, it's okay, right? But when I think about what kids who would be like me, or whatever, in their own idiosyncratic way, how much we put that down and how much what you do then becomes so much more meaningful. So thank you so much, Lydia.
I also just want to thank everyone. Thank you for your openness, your passion, your vulnerability, and also the wisdom you really gathered from your years of experience working directly with these children and changing their lives. So when I hear you guys speak, I had goosebumps. I was like, wow, this is so powerful. And then you're also just amazing individuals and human beings. You're such embodiment of the mission that you are currently carrying on, this purpose, meaningfulness, love, nurture, belonging, empathy, community, inclusiveness, and you all perfectly embody that as walking human beings. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
You do so
All
much.
right, Kurt,
It's been
on to
it's
you.
been great. Thank you all. Next week, we have to push on to episode 204. It's again at noon Eastern time on August 24th. We'll have Andrew Swindell and Winita Chong talking about migrant education and global citizenship on the Thai-Myanmar border. So come join us next week.